to kind of get into some of these trade rumors that we've been noticing around the league and that have kind of percolated on, social media, ESPN, like you've been hearing about them. The first thing that I want to debunk this like right off the bat, and that is the Jimmy Butler to the Suns, like trade news, the trade talk that we've been hearing about. I just want to come on the record and say this is not happening. Like Jimmy Butler is not going to the Phoenix Suns. There's no way that there's no way to tangibly make it work. So I want to start by saying the Suns, they have a lack of assets. They don't have a lot of tradable salaries. They don't have any first round picks outside of one. And they don't have really any young guys to send out. So that already just makes it seem like what would Miami gain from sending their best player to a team that has nothing to offer? Like, yes, Jimmy might want to go there, and that might satisfy his needs, but the Heat have to think for themselves, and they have to prioritize themselves in this situation, and that's just for starters. Like, the most viable trade package that they could offer is some package deal, including Bradley Beal. Maybe if you said a young guy like Ryan Dunn, and then they have one 2031 unprotected first round pick, which that's not a very, in my opinion, that's not a really good trade package for Jimmy Butler, even as he's been getting older and is declining a bit. That's still not a good package for him. And then everyone's been talking about just, oh, you just trade Beal, like the Heat will take that contract. Bradley Beal has a no trade clause, meaning he can decline, he can veto any trade that is brought to him if he does not feel that, like if he doesn't want it to happen. So that makes it even more complicated. So you have to get Miami to agree. You also have to get Beal to agree, which are two things that are very unlikely. And I just don't think Miami would be willing to take on Bradley Beal's contract due to the financial constraint. I think he has like 3 or 4 more years. It's one of the worst contracts in the league. He's making like $50 million. He's always hurt. And if they wanted to pay an older, more injured player $50 million, they would have just extended Jimmy Butler. I don't think they're going to decide, oh, that's just not the route that they would take. And I feel like people are just glossing over this fact. I'm going to be completely honest. And also, I've heard like speculation about, oh, they'll just bring in a third team. One, you would have to find a third team that would be willing to take on that salary dump. And also, again, you would have to get Bradley Beal to okay a trade to a salary dump team. And I just don't see him leaving a contender to go to a team like the Jazz or going back to the Wizards. Like, that's just not going to happen. So I just want to start off by getting that out of the way. Jimmy Butler is not going to the Phoenix Suns. I'm kind of tired of seeing it being reported. And if it does happen, I'll bite my words, but it's not very likely as things currently stand. Some more likely options, though, I feel like there's two teams because the Mavs kind of have the same issues as the Suns. They have some tradable contracts, but they don't have any draft compensation. And like the Heat don't just want role players in a couple seconds. Like that's just not really it's not a good package for Jimmy Butler. But two teams that I think are more likely, the first one I would say is the Rockets because they kind of fit a bunch of the categories that the Heat would be looking for in a Jimmy Butler trade. They have the draft compensation, they have trade assets, and they have salaries. Now, it's possible for him to end up here, but I think the Rockets would be better suited just kind of waiting for a younger star who kind of fits with the ages of their core young guys because like Sengun, let's say that's one of your foundational stars that you want to build around moving forward. He's younger. Like Jimmy Butler has 4 more years left in the league. Like that does not really align, and he'll be almost 40 by the time those guys are like really peaking. That doesn't really align with what that team needs. And also, under Pat Riley, the Heat have not been very big on just receiving draft compensation, and the Rockets have kind of young players that have upside that they could offer in the trade. That's kind of why I think this is a possible option, but I don't think it's that likely. Now, a more likely option and just I think a better fit in terms of fitting with the core of players is the Warriors. They have the draft compensation, they have the trade assets, they have the salaries to make it work. But one thing that I think is being undervalued is the urgency with which the Warriors are kind of maneuvering as of late because the Warriors have openly said that they intend to maximize on this window with Steph Curry, and they've been for the past few years they've been kind of teetering on the fence of like trying to develop their young guys like Pods, Moody, Kuminga, while also trying to keep their star core. And they dropped the ball on letting Clay go, trying to give Pods kind of his shooting guard role. Pods has been a disaster this year. And there was a report that came out a couple days ago that they're kind of more than willing to start trading their young guys. So if they were to make a move and a big swing, I could see this happening. The one thing I'm kind of skeptical about is their cap space because the Warriors don't really have the salary flexibility to be able to pay Jimmy that $50 max extension that he wants. So I don't really know how that works out if he takes a pay cut. But on this deal right now, how things are shaking out, if he were to say, like, tell them, yes, I will resign, that's the most likely team for him, in my opinion.